explaining what happened to the 3 soldiers.
Okay, right. I mean, a couple days ago, 3 American reservists, Army soldier reservists, were killed in Syria by a drone strike that came from one of the proxy forces by Iran. And this is predicated that U.S. military forces throughout the region were being attacked ever since October the 7th because the U.S. supports Israel and its right to defend itself. Then you have the Houthis in Yemen attacking commercial shipping that goes through the Red Sea and out to the Western Europe into the United States. So they're having to divert around the Cape of Good Hope down by South Africa.
Yeah.
So this is where we're at now. President Biden said he's made a decision about responding. Now, how big is it?
And how long? Okay. When he decides to respond, if he waits any longer, isn't it kind of meaningless?
It could be. It just depends.
In a sense, like,
in a way.
And not to say that if a dog does something wrong, or even a kid or something like that, if you don't respond immediately, whether it's a person or an animal or something like that, you're training, then they don't know what the deal is later on.
The bigger problem is this. It's not when he responds. It's how he responds and what level of response does he take. Because right now, nobody in the Middle East respects President Biden or the United States.
Had that been Trump, he would bomb whatever base he thought it came out of, and then he'd send a missile strike right on top of it.
Well, as much as people bemoan Donald Trump, I think it was 2000... No, I'm sorry. It was January of 2000. No, I'm sorry. It was either 2017 or 2018. Russian mercenaries attacked American forces in Syria. So General Mattis called his Russian counterpart, "Are you doing this?" And he said, "No, we're not." They already knew that he was lying, so they unleashed B-52 stealth fighters, drones, and they killed 250 Russians. And
all this while showing Xi Jinping what he was doing.
Yeah, well then, in January of 2020, right before the onset of COVID, they killed, in a strike, killed Qasem Soleimani. Now, the Iranians huffed and puffed, but they didn't do anything because they knew Trump meant business. So as much as you dislike President Trump, think back when President Biden came into office. He was going to make Saudi Arabia a pariah nation. He was going to ostracize them. Now he needs them. So he has a very chaotic Middle East policy, and he was trying to do detente to revitalize the nuclear deal that Trump pulled out of, that President Obama signed in 2015. So we gave billions of dollars in sanction relief and allow Iran to sell oil on the open market, which they used to fund Hezbollah and Hamas, which were financially broke. So all this plays in. I mean, you can complain about whatever, but people need to look at the world that it is, not the world we hope it to be. In the Middle East, as we've been there, it's the strongest tribe is the one that is what they look at. They understand force. They don't understand weakness or negotiation. That's not part of their lexicon.
So let's go back to our home soil when it comes to immigration. It just seems like they're doubling. The federal government's doubling down, while Texas is at least trying to defer them from going through them, especially with the whole razor wire ruling. Why did the Supreme Court rule in favor of the federal government when it came to protecting borders?
Because the Supreme Court, in my opinion, I think they ruled the way they did is because they wanted to rule that the sovereignty of borders, national borders, belongs to the federal government. If they allow the states to do this, in present rulings and other issues, they wanted everybody to stay in their lane. They wanted Congress, you write the law, the executive branch enforces the law. So if states decide to make their own decisions and own ruling, then what do we need a federal government for? Then we go back to the Articles of Confederation, which predated the Constitution, where the states had more power than the weak federal government. So that's what the Supreme Court ruled on. Now, what they've also said, elections have consequences. If you disagree with this, go to the election and elect people who are going to do what you want from the federal level.
So I was getting a little miffed of the whole thing about, you need to elect your elected official, but it would almost say to me that there are people out there that want us this country to kind of destroy itself as well.
Well, they always
because you're electing somebody that doesn't want to see this country succeed.
And that's the point. We're in a period right now where people don't go by the rule of law. Like take President Biden. He was rebuffed by the Supreme Court regarding bailing out student loans. And what does he do? He forgave about $170 billion of student loan debt, even though the Supreme Court said he doesn't have that authority.
Can we touch on that real quick? Well, actually, I want to hit Beach Baby's question, and then we'll go over to
Okay, what's
student loan
Beach
debt.
Baby's question?
So she says, however, the executive power wasn't defending the border, so where does that leave the states?
And that's a great question. Where does it leave the states?
Good job, Lynn.
The only option that I think if I was Governor Abbott, okay, you don't want to protect my borders, then what I'm going to do is accelerate the movement of the migrants to the northern sanctuary states and cities across the country. You wanted them, and now you got them. That's why you're seeing this become an issue, because once they started flooding into New York, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Illinois, Chicago, and California and other states, and Denver, and Colorado, people were like, this isn't right. Why are you taking benefits from us to give it to people who shouldn't be here in the first place? So now it became a big issue.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the latter question about student loan debt, did you have a better advantage, maybe when it came to work, job, stuff like that, having a degree? You personally?
Certain degrees now, not now.
Not
what
degrees,
I did.
No, you going to college. Did that?
No, not right now. No.
Not right now, but like earlier, prior to
Earlier,
COVID.
other jobs, yes.
Okay, I don't have a degree. Now, would I be better suited for businesses or jobs that if I did have a degree versus not having a degree?
It depends. We have this idea that
I know we have this idea, but let's just take real world situation.
not all jobs need a college degree.
But so what if I was like a counselor of some sort?
No, there you would need a college degree.
Okay, exactly. Now, there are people that want to have like this civil service, like this is like a passion for them, whether they want to be a teacher or whether they want to, work for the state or the government or whatnot, into helping people that not necessarily can afford to see a psychiatrist or, help get off their feet. What about those people that go to school, earn a degree, and now they're making in a realm of anywhere between 30 to 45, maybe in a couple, maybe maybe closer to the end of their tenure, 50,000, and they have these student loan debts. Should somebody like that have forgiveness versus, say, doctors, lawyers, people that are in that need a degree to generate more money?
But see, I think the bigger question is, what happened? What caused it? Now, student loan debt was a problem in 2010.
Oh.
People need to understand when they passed the Affordable Care Act, 3 weeks later, a rider went with it, which is the Student Affordability Act of 2009. So what they did is they took the student loan program away from the banks and made the federal government the repository. And President Obama said this would save us over $200 billion. Well, it cost us, the government and the taxpayers, over $1 trillion. So what that meant is the banks previously would have said, if you want to be a counselor, there's a girl that she used to be a lifeguard at the pool I used to swim at, and she wanted to be a marine biologist. Mm-hmm. It's a noble field. Study the oceans, study the aquatic life. But she decided to go to University of Tampa. University of Tampa is a private university, so it's very expensive. Yeah. Then she went to get her master's. She's not going to make any more than on an average $80,000 to $90,000 a year. So she racked up a lot of student loan debt. What the banks would have done is said, okay, you want to be a teacher. We're not sending you to Harvard or Yale for you to be a teacher. We're looking at your cost ratio analysis. Mm-hmm. But then what they didn't do is the schools were allowed to raise tuition as much as they wanted. So if you look at the administrative state of each university and college, that went up about 400%, far greater than the academic side. And then everybody was taking these degrees that weren't going to translate into high-paying jobs when you got out. Now, what they should do is should have education should meet 3 criteria. Those who want to go to college to get a professional degree, those who want to go into vocation like building trades, or a 3rd degree because we're in a high-tech era.
Yeah.
Those who want to go into the technology. There's drones, there's cybersecurity, there's networking, there's all these different aspects with technology that we can do things. But we somehow believe you go to college, you're smarter than someone who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this as an example. Look where we are right now. We have all these geniuses who said inflation was only going to be transitory or temporary. They were wrong. They thought the economy was doing really well. It's not. They sent us off into 5 wars, and we haven't won one yet.
So someone said if anyone was serious about student loan debt, you'd be able to adjudicate it in a bankruptcy.
That was one of the things that President Biden, when he was then Senator Biden, voted against. So I would have to go back and look and see if they changed that. But you can't adjudicate that in a bankruptcy.
That and medical.
Yeah, you can't do that right now.
You can't file bankruptcy for that.
Now, what they need to do, and we had someone earlier when we were doing podcasting, she was a lawyer for the students to help them not forgive the loan, but help them get out of maybe reduce their loans, not loans, their interest rates. So they need to do something like that, but not forgiving it because you signed the loan. And what do you say to you didn't go to college?
No.
Or I went to college. I had to go to war to get my GI Bill so I could go to college. Or what about my younger brother who didn't go? Or those who paid off, or their families who struggled to pay off their debts, and they paid it off, and now they're suckers. And what about the next year? You're not solving the problem.
So, let's see. Abraham Martinez, why isn't education free in universities? Other countries is free to go to accomplish your education.
Other countries, like during the 2016 election, Bernie Sanders wanted to make it like Europe. Okay, so I went and looked at how Europe does its college. If your parents didn't go to college, you're more than likely not going to college.
Mm-hmm.
If your parents went to university or college, you more than likely are going. So when you go to college, you only go for 3 years. And when you go, if you're studying engineering, that's all you're studying. You don't take humanities. You don't take all these other subjects like you do in America.
Good, yeah.
Okay, so when you go to school, we live in Tampa. The only 2 universities you would be able to go to would be the universities in the city that you reside in. Then the second thing is there is no Greek system. There's no dorms. You live at home or you live other places. And then the final caveat to this, and this would be an anathema to most Americans, there is no sports at the university level in European countries or other countries like America.
Okay.
So you play a sport, you go on a club team. It's not the same here.
Yep. Our country tries to keep us in debt and slaves to the dollar. Other countries care about that. Care about there.
Well, you can go either way on that. If you go to Europe having the same problem here. There was an article, I think it was a New Geography, where you're seeing a lot of the European countries are starting to revolt because of they've been like we have here. You take in all these migrants, illegal immigration, and they're tapping the resources. And even Europe, like Sweden, is facing a youth deficit. Their population's declining, but their population is aging at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to come up with how you're going to take care of this aging population with a few young people to help support that.
Yeah.
So it's not as rosy as everybody makes it out to be.
So let's go back to immigration.
Yeah. So immigration became a big issue. It's always been a big issue, and the last time they did comprehensive immigration reform was in 1986. But it was all based off, you do this, we'll give amnesty to, I think at the time was 3 million illegals, and then we'll come up with a secure border. Never happens. So as much as people bemoan Donald Trump, he had the fewest border crossings that we've had in decades. And Joe Biden, after his first year in office, had 1.7 illegals cross, became 2.3 the next year, and I think 2023 was almost 2.7 million. And we're not talking about the gotaways. So we're close to 8-9 million people, and after 4 years, we could be up to almost 12 million.
Well, the former director of Homeland Security, who is kind of maybe thinks he's going to be the new director of Homeland Security if Trump's elected, is like, we're doing a mass deportation.
It'll be interesting how they accomplish that, but there's ways to do.
96% of the people that came over, they're going to deport.
But see, here's the thing: what you can do, and which hasn't stopped yet, after Governor Abbott couldn't absorb this many people into Texas, so he started sending them north to the northern cities and states.
Well, that's how we got sanctuary cities, is because Trump's like, okay, I'm going to deport them, and then all the cities were like, okay, no.
But here's the point. Under President Trump's administration, he had the courts, I guess, got involved. He wanted to ban federal funds going to sanctuary cities and states.
Yeah.
But if you look at it now, look at California, January 1st. What did they do? Every illegal immigrant can use the Medicaid system, but the American taxpayers are paying for it. You got a hospital in Denver. They paid out $130 million to take care of illegal migrants. Mm-hmm. So if you give them housing, education, and now there's they're paying illegals to go to school. There was a report I saw, they're sending money down to help fund these caravans to come north.
Is it wrong of illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants or whatever you want to call them using money the government's giving them from our taxes? Is there anything wrong in that?
Yeah, that's wrong with that. I talked to, because of where I work, and even with the restaurant I worked at, I had to work alongside and work with a lot of coworkers who were from.
I mean, just like, let's just say, you could probably use that money because your living situation isn't the best right now.
Correct. But when I was working at where I work now, because we do a lot of processing of firearm applications for people who are they're permanent residents, or they are American citizens. They became an American citizen, mm-hmm. and they're from other countries. And I worked at a restaurant where we had a lot of people from Latin America, and they were all against illegal immigrants because they did it the right way.
Yeah.
So they're like, why did I go through all this? All I got to do is walk across the border. I'm in America.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got people like birthright citizenship. That was in the 14th Amendment, where it gave freed African-American slaves the right to be a naturalized citizen. Well, that's never been adjudicated. But here right now, if you're 8 months pregnant, you come over here, you have a baby in America, well, that child is an American citizen, and you can bring your whole family over. So we're right now, America needs immigrants, legal immigrants. But what we're getting is people who are unskilled, not highly educated, because they weren't educated in their home country, and we're going to have to provide for them. So how is America right now? There was a report out of Congress. We're spending upward $500 billion, that money we don't have.
Okay, you ready to get into some TikToks here?
Yeah, let's fire away.
Okay, Abraham, free if you want, wrong path. Okay, hold on. He didn't fix the immigration problem the first time. I guess they might be talking about Donald Trump.
I think they're talking about Trump. He's correct, but remember when Donald Trump tried to fix it, tried to get things through, the Democrats fought him tooth and nail. Remember when he stopped funding sanctuary cities? They were against that. When everything he did, they were against. Now, remember AOC went to the borders crying about what they're doing.
At a fence that wasn't even near the border.
Yeah, and they talked about children in cages. That was under Obama.
Yeah.
But more people have died crossing the U.S. southern border than died in the 4 years of Donald Trump. So what about human trafficking? All these young women and children who've been sexually assaulted and raped on their way north, and they've lost count of well over 100,000 children. They don't know where they're at. So
apparently Tron is all about how our government or the U.S. is trying to enslave us and through corporations. So he's a Marine too. Oh.
Okay, I would have to have him explain that a little bit more so I get a little bit more in context on that.
If he has Marine and he's listening to you, he might know you. Anything can be done to improve? What is Joe Biden doing? What is Joe Biden doing to immigration?
Nothing right now.
Okay.
He even said that you passed they're doing a negotiation in the Senate. You passed it, I'll sign it because I need the power to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the power.
So one of the users wants to know, where do you get all this information, John?
I get it from different, one, I get a lot of federal agents come into the store from Homeland Security, from ICE, from the Border Patrol agents. I also read different policy journals from different, not just conservative, but also liberal. And I read books and I just observe what's going on. And then I listen to follow some of the prominent individuals across from different think tanks and policy centers who report on all this. And that's where I get my information on the border.
So someone, Abraham Martinez, and how much money in slag pays in taxes, and they can't apply for the government to keep it?
I'm not sure.
He needs a little bit more context with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Biden has tried. House GOP voted down a bill. SCOTUS ruled against his asylum reform.
I've read, and you can go to, I posted it on my website a couple days ago. It was President Biden did submit a comprehensive immigration to the House, the Democratic-controlled House.
But there wasn't a pork behind it.
Okay, but hold on.
Support to Israel, Ukraine, all that.
No, this is before this.
Okay.
In 2020, when he became president, he submitted an comprehensive immigration reform to the Congress. It had nothing to do with enforcement. All it had everything to do with processing people through the country and into the United States. So even now, he's still about bringing more people over here instead of enforcing the existing laws.
Okay. Brian says, the minute a tow crosses the border, the immigrant has rights. Why the actual wall is so important? Is that true?
And no, it is true. If there's certain laws that, and what they have done is they abused the asylum law. The asylum law wasn't meant to be because you come from a poor country, you can apply for asylum. What the Democrats want to do, and Joe Biden has done, is liberalize that, and they just do catch and release. They catch them, go, see you in 10 years. I talked to an immigration official numerous times, and they said the same thing. If an immigrant gets released, they give him a court date. That could be 10 years from now.
Lost children are due to Trump's separation policy.
That's the same policy. Tom Holman, who was the ICE director, said that when he was a New York police officer, he arrested somebody for drunk driving who had a child in the car. They were automatically separated from the parent. It's no different when someone breaks the law by entering the United States illegally. If anybody commits a crime with a child in tow, that child is automatically removed from the parent.
John, are you smart?
Not say I'm smart. I'm just well read.
Well, I mean, as a Marine, I don't think you use crayons. So you so smart, you can't tell the difference between America and the United States of America. Is there a difference?
It depends what they're trying to put in context.
I guess so. Come on, Abraham, put some more context into that. Obama deported more people than any other president.
That is true. Obama was named as the deporter-in-chief, but Biden it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do all this.
Immigrants are getting more than Social Security, seniors, or disabled veterans.
Yeah, I would have the facts to back it up, but I would agree with that. They're getting a lot of benefits.
I get my check every month. It seems to be pretty decent. I don't think an immigrant's getting more than that.
But an immigrant comes here, gets free housing, free education, free health care, free food. They're put up in hotels. They can go to a hospital, get all the medical care they need, and they don't have to pay. That's fact. Denver went through it. Arizona's going through it. California's going through it.
Most people don't realize Remain in Mexico is still the law.
Not so much. The Supreme Court overruled that because they said the president doesn't have that authority to institute something like that. They need Congress, and that's why the Supreme Court is telling Congress, do your job.
Yeah. Well, 118th Congress, GOP-led, they voted down 2 border bills.
Because the border bills were nothing about enforcing. It was processing illegals through the system, into the country. That's the problem we're at right now. One side just wants to process more. The other side wants to get we need hard and fast border security, which we don't have.
Okay, immigration splits families at the border. Mom takes one, dad takes the other.
But see, the other big problem with that is, go back to 2021. Kamala Harris, the vice president, was put in charge of the border issue, and she said, we're going to fix it at the source.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done that. She went to Guatemala back, I think, June of 2021, and then about a year and a half, 2 years later, the Guatemalan president said, I haven't heard from her since. And where is Kamala Harris on this issue?
This administration seems very, very lazy.
Well, they talk stuff, but they don't do anything.
I mean, what's their whole agenda? What have they done over the past, 3+ years?
Well, the one thing I would throw in, it seems like where Joe Biden goes, death follows. You got the deaths of Americans in Afghanistan. We got the problems in the Middle East with the 3 soldiers were killed, and how many thousands of illegal immigrants were killed trying to cross that U.S. southern border or trying to get to the U.S. southern border.
Mm-hmm.
And they're dispersed. There's even a report that they don't even know where 80,000 children went to.
Yeah.
They could be in human sex trafficking. They could be in these horrific conditions. So, but this administration says, I've done everything I could, and that's a bold-faced lie. And I wish we had a media that was more independent. I don't want them to be cheerleaders for the Republicans, but at least ask tough questions. When Corinne Jean-Pierre said, we've done all I can, he goes, that's false. There was even an interview with Brett Baer, one of the senior Biden officials on immigration, said, we've done more than any president. And Brett Baer looked at him like, you're delusional. Mm-hmm. More people have crossed now than they did in the 4 years of total of Trump's presidency.
So someone says he pardoned Steve Bannon, so I'm pretty sure he's talking about Trump.
Trump, yeah.
Did Trump pardon Steve Bannon, who was embezzling border?
I would have to go. I know he pardoned a few. I'd have to go back and look and see if he did.
They said he embezzled border wall funds.
No.
It bothers me. Abbott does this optic 1 week after WEF finishes in Davos.
No, this has been going on since 2022, shipping migrants north.
Okay.
But Biden hasn't done anything. He hasn't come down to the border. He's visited one time and never discusses it.
I think what we're doing is we're showing these cities that are like, yes, give us, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, you're immigrants. This is a sanctuary city. But they're like, they say, it's almost like, hey, okay, it's like the age-old thing on like Thanksgiving. Hey, if you got nowhere else to go, you can come over to my house. You know, like that. And then all of a sudden, like, if you show up, there's everybody's in like, okay.
Like right now, the FBI, Christopher Wray had mentioned that well over 1 million military-aged men have crossed the U.S. southern border. And we don't know where they're at, where they're going, and who they are. We could have
put them in. Well, also, look at what the Army's going through. First of all, they did an assessment of the strength of each military branch.
Yeah, the Heritage Foundation did that.
Yeah, and guess what? Marines were very, very good.
But the
Army was weak. Air Force was very weak. You know, or was it the Navy? One of them.
But I mean, it just showed our military is not ready. Now,
No. Yes, but Marines were ready.
We're ready, but
we
also
carry this whole thing on our back.
But also in the Marine Corps, we don't have enough amphibious ships to get us to where we need to go. So there's the American.
Tell a Marine, he'll swim.
The American military is not prepared for conflict, and this comes from the Center for Strategic International Studies, who did an assessment of 25 different military exercises. And had we gone to conflict with China over Taiwan, we're not ready.
Okay, someone chimed in and says they aren't military aged. They're turning point USA fear mongering, and they're able-bodied working age.
See, I would disagree with that. If you go by the FBI, that means the FBI lied to Congress when he said Over 1 million military-aged men from all over the world have entered the U.S. southern border, and we don't know who they are, where they're at, or where they're going.
Boom, leftover eggs. I don't know what that means. All right. John, how can they get a hold of us?
You can get a hold of us, and I thank everybody for chiming in. You can go to ubaldireports@gmail.com. That's ubaldireports@gmail.com. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And before we close, I want Joe to explain what he's doing with the All-American Gunslingers.
Yeah, All American Gunslingers, our new gun store, gun range, classrooms, gunsmithing, gun repair, opening up in Newport Richey. Go to the Facebook page, All American Gunslingers. You can find a group, you can find a page. That's how you can go ahead and reach out to us, get a hold of us. Tell us you heard us on the show.
Yeah, that would be good.
I would like to hear that. If you hear this and then you go on our page and you message us and say, hey, I heard you on Ubaldi Reports. You know how happy John will be? So happy.
Oh, yeah. So happy.
So with that, look out for us soon. Website will be up soon, and then we'll be selling stuff and getting everything going. Looking forward to it, and have a great day.
Until next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, keep following Ubaldi Reports.